Hello, welcome to Salt City Knits podcast. I'm Emily, and this is a podcast all about my knitting and making. And today is Tuesday, May 9th, and this is episode 9. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Salt City Knits, and my patterns are available on Ravelry and on yarnberry.com. So I think that's all the businessy, starty bits, but I'm back with another episode. I have decided to go to recording every other week, and I'm really happy to be here today. It's been beautiful spring weather, and I have had some of the really fun times with knitting recently. So a little over a week ago, we had a show here, a knitting show, a yarn show called Great Basin Fiber Arts Festival. And that was really fun to go to and see all the booths and, shops there, and also meet up with my local knitting group. We all most of us were able to come on the same day and do some shopping and then hang out and knit in the shade. We found some patchy shade and sat together and knit. I got a little bit of a sunburn, not too bad, although I did get sunburned again on Saturday, and so my nose is still kind of red and peely, but it's the time of year. We've been inside all winter, and so even with sunblock, I just burn like that. It's really annoying, especially because this sunburn happened in cold temperatures, in the shade, on a cloudy day. What do you do? So anyway, today I have one finished object and a couple of works in progress. And then I was going to talk to you about knitting stitch dictionaries and a few that I've been using recently. And yeah, let's get started with that. First off, my first finished object, I just have a picture to put in. I forgot to take pictures of this before I gave it. So my friend, this is one of my kind of starburst style baby blankets I've been making. And this one is for my best friend's daughter and their new baby boy that's coming. So exciting. So I texted her and I said, did you catch any pictures at the baby shower? And she did. So they said I could share those here. So this is that same pattern I think I talked about in our last episode. Now, if I have to remember what the name of the pattern is again, I think it's called Under the Stars. I will double check that really quickly. But I have really enjoyed crocheting these, and I have a couple more in the works. So yeah, Sleep Under the Stars blanket, and I showed it last time on the podcast, but it's this one. And I've really enjoyed this pattern. I have crocheted this in kind of DK weight to worsted weight. And the one I'm working on right now is a very light, probably more of a sport weight. I'll show that one a little bit later. But that's the pattern. It is available on Ravelry and also, I believe, on Lovecrafts. I think I actually got this one on Lovecrafts, but it is a free pattern. And yeah, it's great. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of a great alternative to just doing a ripple blanket or a granny stripe blanket, in that it's very simple in the pattern, but it just kind of gives you a unique shape. And so or a granny square blanket, it just kind of is a fun one. So yeah, she loved the blanket. She was super excited about it, and that was awesome. And I'm happy to have done that one. That one I knit in, I think this was acrylic yarn that I had leftovers. I've made 2 out of the same yarn, and the other one was several years ago. So I'm pretty sure this is, what is the brand? I don't even remember the brand. I know it was something I bought at Joann Fabrics. It was a basic acrylic. So, but it was in a worsted weight, and it turned out great. Turned out really great. My second finished object, see if I can pull my daughter's hair off of this. She has very long hair and it's everywhere. Is this pair of Francis socks. And I love how they turned out with this yarn. They're so fun. I love this texture. So Francis socks is a pattern I came out with a few years ago, and it's a very simple texture pattern. And I love it for speckly yarns because it adds some interest, but it does not detract from the yarn. It works really well. I had some fun pooling. This yarn is from Mr. and Mrs. Rabbits. They are no longer dyeing, unfortunately. But they are, I loved their yarns so much. And this was one I had in my stash, and it was perfect for the time of year because it's called First Crocus. So it's an excellent springtime colorway. I knit these to go in, I don't know. I don't think they're going to go in my sock drawer. I think they're going to go in my gift basket for when I need a gift. I knit them a little small for me so that they would fit more people. I have big feet. But I cast on 64 stitches. So I did the 64 stitch size. And this pattern is top down, has a heel flap and gusset. And like I said, this great textury pattern with a twisted rib cuff. So yeah, look at that. I think they turned out great. I put these on blockers to show, but I have not actually washed and blocked these. One of the things I like about, and you can see it a little bit here, that I like about this stitch pattern is that on the foot, let me see if I can show you. This texture can actually create this really beautiful, almost, let's see, it's gonna be better on the foot. Can you see how it almost creates like a smocked stitch look? So the stitches, the rows might stretch a little bit, but this little wrapped stitch will hold it in place and give you kind of this look of a smocked stitch. So I really love how it looks on, which you can see on the pattern photo, but I just really like how it turned out. So here it is off the sock blocker, you know, just basic. Like I said, I haven't washed and blocked these yet. They just came off my needles and I put them on the sock blockers to show so that you could get an idea of how that looks stretched out. Here, I'll show you this one. So again, see if you can see right here how it kind of smocks right there. I really love that. Yes, this is one of my favorite of my patterns. I have knit it so many times. It still has a nice elastic feel to the fabric. It's not too rigid with that little wrapped stitch, and it's fun to knit. It's just enjoyable. So that is that one. All right, works in progress. I have one that is a new design that I think I'm gonna wait to show until it is finished, but it is a wrap, and I picked up the yarns. I'll show you the yarns because they're so beautiful. I picked up these yarns at Great Basin and I fell in love with them so much I had to design with them right away. These are all from Yarnaceous Fibers, and these are my 3 colors. Look at that. This one is called Great Salt Lake, which is the lake that my city is named for. And then this one is called Morganite, and this one is called Fog. And I just love those together. I'm so excited for this design. I'm so excited to show it to you. I'm about 60% done with it, and it's turning out really beautifully. So I'm really excited to share it. I love wraps, you know, shawls that aren't trying. I mean, I love making shawls, but I also really love wearing wraps. They're some of my favorites to wear. So it will be a long a long rectangle, and I'm really excited for that one. But I'm not going to show it to you yet. It involves some simple lace, some texture, some rusty bits, you know, kind of my favorite things where you have something with a lot of interest and then it switches up to some more mindless knitting for a while, and then you go back to some more interest. That's the way I love to do projects. So I like to include that in my designs. All right, here is another one of my works in progress, which is another one of the Sleep Under the Stars blankets. And this is where I am on it so far. This is the one I was mentioning is a kind of more of a sport weight. I just had it folded up and it looks kind of wrinkly, but I love how it's turning out. At this point, it is going to be gray for the rest of it, a gray yarn. I've used up all of the little mini bits that came in this set. It was an acrylic wool blend yarn, again from Hobby Lobby, and it came with a set of, was it 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. So it came with the white, the darker pink, the gold, the light blue, the teal, and the lighter pink yarns. And I have used those. I added this gray in here, and then that gray is going to be the wide border to finish it out. Obviously, we're not quite there to the right size for a baby yet, but I think this is so fun. It's bigger than a circle. You can see this is it folded in half. So it's just got such a fun shape to it, and it wraps up around a baby so nicely. So this one I need to finish up in the next couple of days because I have another baby shower on Saturday. So it'll be time to get this one away right away. So I'm in a hurry on that one. It's been hard though, because I just want to work on that wrap. I don't want to do anything else. I want to knit my wrap, but I'll be coming back to that one. So the last bit of this will be finished up in this Yarn Bee 44th Street, which is an acrylic polyamide blend, and it's silver gray is the color. And all the rest of these yarns were pretty solid. You can see that, but this one has a little bit of tonal variation in, which I always love. I love a yarn with a tonal variation, just that little bit of shift that makes it look artisan, you know. So it'll be really fun. That's for a new baby girl that's going to be born, and her name is going to be, I think it's Scotland, and then she's going to go by Scotty, if I remember correctly. So that's really fun. I've been enjoying the crochet. I really have. There's something so fun and fast and satisfying about crochet. But my true love is always knitting. So I've been doing a lot of crocheting lately. And the knitting is calling to me. So my last work in progress that I'm going to show you is this sock here. I cast these socks on. My kids and I went and saw the new Dungeons and Dragons movie. I had seen it with my youngest daughter closer to when it first came out. But I had wanted to take my son, my 18-year-old too. And so we found a time last week to go, and I wanted to take a knitting project, but everything I had was not movie knitting. I needed something simple. So I cast on this vanilla sock, and I am knitting this in an opal yarn. So here is the cake of yarn. And it is opal colors in love. Oh, trying to do things in a weird way. Here we go. And it says Farba 9512, and I believe Farba is color, so it would be color 9512. But you can see right there, there's the look of what that self-patterning yarn will be. I am knitting these for my friend Jen, who is one of the biggest fans of my hand knit socks, and she likes a lot of browns, and browns are not my favorite to knit. So this is my compromise. You get some with lots of colors, but brown will be in there. I really love how this self-patterning yarn is working up. You know, I think that I knit with a lot of, you know, hand-dyed yarns, merinos, you know, kind of those softer, a little bit more, I don't know, gentle. I don't know if that's the right word, but the woolier, a little bit more rustic yarns, they are so great for socks and they wear so well. And I know my friend Jen loves them. So she just wears them and she has worn her first pair almost out. The sole, the entire sole is starting to get pretty thin, but she takes really good care of them. She's so knit worthy. So those will be for her. And I've shown before my way that I do my magic loop when I am working my heel or my gusset decreases, which is the part that I'm on now. And so, yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. It's funny because when I first bought this, I think I had the impression that it was mostly brown with a little bit of blue. But as I'm knitting it, I'm finding it to be the opposite, mostly blue with a little bit of brown. Still, it's great. Super fun. So that's the project bag that just stays in my purse so that I can take it to church or, like I said, work on it in the movie. And I do find one thing I wanted to show you. I had just cast it on and I hadn't finished the cuff. So I worked on the cuff during the movie. And you can tell because right here, you can see that I got off on my knits and purls and there's a couple purl stitches where knits should be and knits where purls should be. But I'm not going to worry about that. Somehow I fixed it and or got back on track. And Jen won't care one bit. So I'm not ripping. When I got home and I saw that, I thought, I'm not ripping that out. It'll be fine. I think I got down to about here. I think I knit about that much in our movie. And the movie is so fun. If you haven't seen it, I loved it. I really enjoyed it. It felt like going to the movies 10 years ago. I feel like so much of the time now I go to the movie and I just feel disappointed. I want a movie that's an entertainment, not necessarily has a big agenda behind it or is just a remake of the remake of the remake. And I just have been I love going to the movies, but I've been kind of blah about it lately. But that one I really enjoyed. It's fluff. It's entirely fluff. It's got no agenda. It's just fun. And it was really fun. And my kids and I loved it. So a lot of enjoyment there. So that's what I have going on right now. I can't believe how fast I went through that. Those were pretty speedy, fast projects to share. My Dixie Creek shawl is still in test knitting right now, but there are projects in progress that are getting posted on Instagram. So if you're interested in seeing those, you can just look at the hashtag Dixie Creek shawl and you can find some of those. So that's been really fun for me to see people making those. And I know there's some people that are getting to the end and to the bind off now and doing the picos. So that's really fun. Looking forward to releasing that one in a couple of weeks. Okay, let's talk about stitch dictionaries. So I guess this is a book recommendation as well. So my first stitch, I cannot say that word, stitch dictionary, that phrase, that I bought was this one right here. It's 400 knitting stitches and it is by Pottercraft. I love how they always say a complete dictionary, like all of them kind of say the most extensive or whatever. But in the end, there's so many different stitches. So anyway, I really like this one. Most of the dictionaries, I think, most of the ones that I'm going to show you go through and they have kind of like basic, like they might say knits and purls, or it might say textures, lace, cables, color work. The thing I like about this one is that it's pretty basic. So it's a good place to go for textures and different things like that. I like that it will show me a sample a written instruction and a little chart for the different stitches. However, most of these are quite basic, so they are fairly simple stitches, which is great. Sometimes you just need very simple stitches. I definitely have found some inspiration here, but it's not necessarily the one that I go to on a regular basis because of that fact. It is a little bit, I don't know, for lack of a word, it's a little obvious, if that makes sense. It's kind of, I don't know. It's good, but it's not as complete as I would like it. So that was my first one. Then the second one that I bought is the Japanese Knitting Stitch Bible. I know everybody has seen this book. It is by Tuttle, is the publisher, and Hitomi Shida is the author or editor. Now this one is full of the most beautiful, look at those. Aren't those just gorgeous? The most beautiful stitch patterns. They tend toward complicated lace and cables, which is all really great. And most of them include twisted stitches, which I think is definitely kind of when you think of a Japanese stitch pattern, you really do kind of picture the raised, tight, twisted stitches that travel through, right? One of the things I love about this is just the way that they combine different stitches together. So let me show you this one, for example. Let's see. So for example, right here, it's showing you this beautiful cable and then a textured kind of eyelet pattern and this fan down the center of the cable. So it shows you different ways to combine different types of stitches together to create a pattern. Things that I don't love about it is that it includes a lot of the lace patterns. I would say at least 50% of the lace patterns include increases and decreases on every row. So if you're knitting flat, that would mean that you're working increases and decreases on the wrong side of your fabric, which I know a lot of knitters don't enjoy doing. I personally have done that on a few different of the projects I've made, and I don't enjoy it either. It's not my favorite. I'll do it for a gorgeous lace pattern, but I wouldn't necessarily make that something I would include in every one of my designs, for example, because, you know, it's just a lot of things to keep track of when you have to track that for every single row. It's so nice when you have, you know, your increases and decreases on the right side, and then on the wrong side, you're either just purling across, or you're knitting the knits and purling the purls, or, you know, things like that, so that it, you kind of get that little break every other row. So those are just a couple of things. Those aren't deal breakers, but just something to be aware of with the Japanese knitting stitch dictionary. There are just some absolutely stunning patterns though. The charts for me are a little challenging to read. I always have to kind of shift my brain because the way that their cables are written when they are twisted stitches. Let me see if I can find a good example in the chart. There's a lot of twisted stitch cables, and a twisted stitch, let's go back to that same one we were looking at before. A twisted stitch cable in a chart. Let's see if I can show you this. I don't know if you can see that, probably not. Anyway, it looks very much like all these loops that are crossing each other, and it can be a little weird to decipher at first, but as soon as your brain switches into that gear, then you're fine. Oh, but they're just so beautiful. So that was the second one I got. So these feel very much like they're at two ends of the spectrum, right? You've got very, very basic and you've got quite complex. So the next one that I purchased, I'm going to take this little clippy off here, is this one. And this is a fabulous one. The Ultimate All-Around Stitch Dictionary. The great thing about this one, again, it does kind of textures made with knits and purls. So the sections are knits and purls. And then the next section is, there's 2 chapters on that. And then you get into ribs, and then you get into different textures. There's laces, there's fancy, I think they just call them fancy stitches, cables, etc. The great thing about this is it will show you how to knit that stitch, both if you're working back and forth or if you're working in the round. And many of them, it'll also show you if you want to work it top up or bottom down, top down or bottom up. And so it gives you lots of different options on how to utilize those stitches together. Most of the stitches are a little more basic. They're not, they're not like the Japanese knitting stitch dictionary as far as that kind of complexity. But they are, so let's show you this example. So here's an example with a fur cone lace, and it's going to show you all these different charts and written instructions based on the way you're going to knit it. So we have bottom up in the round, bottom up flat, top down flat, and top down in the round. So you get all those different options in this book. So I think this one is a fabulous book. It's just got so much great information. Yeah, it's really a great one. And this one is by Wendy Bernard, published by Abrams. So I got this one on Amazon. And then you have this big honkin' book here, the Vogue Knitting Ultimate Stitch Dictionary by Vogue Knitting. And this one is another, it's very similar in the setup to all the other ones that I was talking about. I feel like it has a little bit more, let's see. It's got a few more options. One of the things I like about this one is it kind of shows how some of these stitches might affect your edgings. So for example, if you look at these 2, or actually all 3 of these, you can see the way that the samples are, the stitches affect the shape of the knitting. That's more about the way that they did their swatches than anything else, because I think at least 2 of these I've seen in other stitch dictionaries, but they just showed like a cutout. So you didn't see the way it could possibly affect your edges. And it's nice to be able to look at that and see the change of that. I honestly have to say that with this one, I kind of almost never go to this one. I generally go to the Ultimate All-Around, the one I just showed before this book, and I go to the Japanese one. Those tend to be the 2 that I look at the most. And this is huge and heavy. Not that matters. I think if you, I don't know, I guess I just feel like the other books combined kind of give me what this one does, but I think it's more about preference, just what you prefer. It's still a fabulous book. And let's see. There was something else I was going to tell you about it. Now I'm trying to remember what it was. One of the things I do like about this one is that it includes the key along with the pattern. A lot of these other books, they put the key at the beginning or at the end of the book, and then you have to refer back to it there. But this one, here's your chart and here's your key. So you can just look right at that one place and not have to go flipping back and forth through your book to look at the key, if that makes sense. Anyway, those are some of the resources I've been using. I also love looking on Pinterest for stitch patterns. There's a lot of different websites that you can find when you're looking on Pinterest that will go back and refer to the website. I do try to always refer back to a website to make sure that I am getting the information from a source that wants to share it, because that is one of the dangers of Pinterest, is that a lot of the stuff that's on there is kind of, I don't know, lifted from other people's content that they've created. So I do try to track back and make sure that anything I'm using, I'm going back to the source so that I'm, I don't know, giving credit back to, or at least the attention and the clicks, you know, back to the place that may have published it in the first place. So that is also another great resource. So yeah, those are some of the things that I've been using. I would love to know, do you have other stitch dictionaries that you use, that you love? What are some of your favorites? So if you have any of those ideas, please post them below. I would love to see them. I feel like that is one of the best places that I can go for inspiration when I'm designing, or even when I'm just trying to figure out what I want to knit. Sometimes you have yarn and you want to use that yarn, but you're trying to figure out what would be the best thing. So sometimes I'll just flip through those going, oh yeah, see something more lacy like this, or something more cable-y. And then I might go look for a pattern that's already in, you know, out there that has some of those elements, but it's just so fun to look at them. Gives me lots of ideas. And one of the other things too is if, you know, I have some sweater patterns, for example, that I love the fit of the sweater, and I don't necessarily want to go knit that exact same sweater again, but I could take that sweater and switch out a stitch pattern in it, and then know I'm going to like the fit, but have a different look to it. So that's another thing you can do. So for example, in the Minuet, is it Minuet that I'm thinking of? By Rurico, that has, yeah, it has 2 cables that run down the back and then they curve out and they go down. And then there's cables down the front that grow. And there's all different cables I could put in that same cardigan. You just look for ones that have a similar stitch count or combining of different things. And you can kind of alter patterns. So that's another great way to use a stitch dictionary, is not just if you want to go out and design patterns, but if you want to take a pattern you already love and add some extra interest, or, you know, switch something up with it. So that can be a lot of fun. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. It's been so fun to visit with you. I'm looking forward to coming back and having another chat with you in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, for those of you in the US, I hope you enjoy Mother's Day coming up this Sunday, and everybody is enjoying this glorious weather. It's one of the best times of the year, in my opinion. I love it. And I'll talk to you all soon. Thank you. Bye.